Hi, Kappa here. Before we get started with today's conversation, I'd like to say a couple of things. Suburban Consumption of the Monstrous is a horror anthology of live-action roleplay scenarios for adults. It is not suitable for children. In today's conversation, we touch on topics found in the anthology, but we don't discuss them in specific detail. These include murder, familial relationships, suburbia, cannibalism, poison, abuse, and of course, consumption of food. Please continue at your own discretion. For a full list of content warnings, head over to the Kickstarter, link in the chat or description. And while you're over there, give them your support. Thanks for being here. We'll get started in about 30 seconds. Hello and welcome to Friends Who Roll Dice. My name is Kappa. If you're here, you probably know what we're up to, but if this is your first time on the channel, welcome to Friends Who Roll Dice, a group of folks who are all about uplifting marginalized folks in the TTRPG community through streams, charity events, and showcases such as this one. Today, we're going to be talking about Suburban Consumption of Monsters, an anthology of live-action RPG stories, LARPs, set in suburbia with the themes of food and consumption. With me today is one of the creators, Banana Chan of Suburban Consumption. Banana Chan, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on. Hi, everyone. I am Banana. I am the owner and co-founder of a small box board game and RPG publishing company called Game in a Curry. And I also design and write for games, role-playing games, board games, all sorts of stuff. So my most recent work has been on Van Richten's Guide to Ravenloft. I've done work for the latest Dune RPG, and I've also been the lead prompt writer for, I always have to remember this because I always mix it up with Sen's game by accident, because Sen also has a Scooby-Doo game. My Scooby-Doo game is Scooby-Doo Betrayal at Mystery Mansion. His Scooby-Doo game is Escape from Mystery Mansion, I think.
I mean, check out both of them, right? You can't go wrong with either. But if we're trying to promote your stuff, go to Bananas.
The funny thing is that we both had those games lined up, and we both had NDAs. We were both working together on another game called Junction in the Banquet Hall.
And you couldn't talk to each other about it.
We didn't talk to each other at all about this project that we were working on. And then later on, both of our games came out, and we were just like, hey, wait a second.
That's wild. Wow. Oh man. Luckily I don't think maybe you're not really competing with anyone for this specific. It's so unique, I think. But we'll get into that. But unfortunately, the other creators, Sadia, could not be here with us for this conversation. Banana, if you would like to kind of speak to Sadia on behalf.
Yeah, so Sadia Bees is an excellent LARP writer. I don't know how to explain their work. Like their work is like just incredible. Like they're very, it's very, I would say like intimate, right? So like a lot of the games deal a lot with like intimacy. They have like intimate mechanics. I think we met at Living Games sometime in 2018 or 2017, around then. And we were at Living Games conference, and that's when we first met. They had this talk that they were holding with their partner Quinn at the time, and they're still together, but like they were having like a talk or something like that. And I think later on we eventually met while we were playing a game, and then several years down the road, I asked them if they wanted to be one of the artists for Zhangshe, and they were just like, yeah, let's do it. And so they started working on some pieces of art for Zhangshe, and then later on, I think I finally read one of their LARPs, which was Burial by Ash, which was one of the Golden Cobra, I believe, either won an award or like was an honorable mention or something like that.
I'm pretty sure they were nominated at the very. I can't remember if they actually won. Anyway, we'll have Sadia V's information and some of the stuff linked either in chats or on a tweet somewhere. But yeah. Thank you for again. really wanted Saudi here, but we'll carry on. We'll carry on and talk about this because there is a little bit of a not. There's a little bit of a time crunch. We are going to be talking about the Kickstarter for Suburban Consumption of Monsters, which we'll get into it.
Sorry.
Oh yeah. Oh sorry. Yes, Monstrous. Yeah, I keep saying it.
It's okay.
But yes, we'll get into that as the conversation goes on. But Banana, thank you for being here today. We've done a lot of stuff like with Friends Who Roll Dice and all that stuff, and I'm constantly seeing your productions everywhere. Every single update for Juncture I get is like, I can't wait. I'm really excited.
I really hope it's not too spammy at this point.
It's not, no, okay. I'm like, wait, give it to me.
That box is heavy. It's like 3.5 pounds.
I when I look at what is included, I'm like, how is this going to be shipped? But
No
like, we love that. We loved the just the tangible stuff, chunky stuff that has weight to it. I don't know. That's just me. But we're not talking about Juncture. We're talking about suburban consumption. So this is something really unique and something that I personally love because horror is near and dear to my heart. I thoroughly enjoy it as one, for fun, and two, for analytics and a way to view the world through extremely ridiculous situations, inspired by movies, inspired by short stories, all that stuff. So suburban consumption follows two pervasive themes, right? The horror and of suburbia and food and consumption.
Yes.
Right.
Yes, that is accurate. Yeah. So I would say it does play a lot on the idea of how creepy the suburbs are in general. Like, definitely that is a huge theme. And also like weird interpersonal dynamics, right? So like sitting around the dinner table, it is pretty awkward just like sitting with family members or like people maybe that don't have the best relationship with, like people you just don't really either don't like, or you just don't have like maybe you have like a codependent relationship with these other characters. So we explore those kinds of themes. We explore like toxic, I hate that word, but like weird or unhealthy relationships between friends, family, and so that's like one of the things that we talk about.
And like and if you didn't grow up in this sort of environment, if you grew up like in a city or you grew up in more agrarian societies, there is so much esoteries of suburbia that you wouldn't come obvious to someone that grew up in like an apartment complex or something. There are HOAs to deal with. There are pressures to interact with neighbors and stuff like that. And sitting around a dinner table, like you said, is fundamental to a lot of cultures. But when we take something so familiar and twist it with horror and themes and darker themes, it really turns it on its head, I think. So can you speak a little bit to how you settled on food?
Yeah, I think so the dinner table was always something that we wanted to have in our games, right? So in the beginning, I think we were talking a lot about the movies that we liked. So I really like The Invitation. I really liked Get Out, and I also really liked Coherence. So these are all very different movies, but they all center around like a dinner table, and they also center around like weird relationships, right? Set in the suburbs.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's sort of something that we wanted to have played out in our games, where you have a table, and we joke about this a little bit, where we're just like, oh, it's technically a tabletop game, right? Like we're playing on a table. And so like having that not just as a prop, but also as like a way of changing the relationships between characters, because it does get a little awkward or tense when you're sitting around a dinner table, because it feels a lot more, I guess, like official. It feels like a lot more.
It's got a sort of air about it that requires a sort of reverence sometimes,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Yeah. So that's one of the, the things that we wanted to add into the game. I think at its core, we did think a lot about otherness as well.
Mhm.
So what does it feel like when you're, sitting around the table and you have these quote unquote traditional family values, and like one of you is just like, or some of you are like, a little different, right, from what your family wants for you. And so we're talking about that a little bit as well. We wanted that to be like prominent in some of the games. And that's sort of the reason why we also brought up a little bit of cannibalism in the games as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. So we have like, people eating their family members, and themes like that, where it's just like, can we overcome this like weirdness that's happening around us through something that's also monstrous, like this act that's pretty monstrous, which is like, consuming the other person.
Yeah.
So yeah, a lot of stuff there.
There's a lot of stuff, but I feel like you take the few ideas and really dive into them and mix them together so well. Just looking at the Kickstarter page and what is already featured, every story it explores a very unique gem of all these unique through line of these themes of suburbia, of consumption, of dinner table, of ritualistic togetherness. You've already gone into a little bit of what I wanted to talk about next, sort of the inspirations behind these things. You talked about Get Out, and how and otherness of how someone entering a new setting with all these rules and stuff, and discovering how different they really are in the space. Do you have any other sort of inspiration that you can cite for suburban consumption?
Yeah, definitely. I think another one that we touched on is Phantom Thread, which I don't know if you've seen it, but it is gorgeous.
Phantom Thread?
Yeah, so it is a Munchausen's by proxy. It's a movie about that, basically.
Okay.
And it's just like, in the game, it's a 2-player game, and you sort of act that out. So one player plays the person who gets poisoned, and then the other player gets to be the poisoner and take care of the other player character. And so we have a game like that. We have another game that is based around like, being in a soap opera hell, where you are sort of repeating the same lines over and over again, and you have to like make sure you get it right, but you don't know what the things are that you're trying to get right.
That like you describing that, like there's a deep-seated fear and I really want to play it now.
Oh, it's very much like just scripted. So you get the scripts, you get like literal scripts that you read over and over again.
Yeah.
And it's sort of similar with some of the other games, where we have scripts that are laid out in front of people so that they can like, do these things in order. Our Child is another one where it's for 3 players. 2 of the players are parents who really want to have a child, but for some strange reason they can't have a child, so they use magic to conceive this child. So the 3rd player is the magical weird child, and this game is like very much inspired by changeling mythology. This one is actually designed by Sadia, which I freaking love because I tested it. I got to play the child, and it was hilarious. I mean, for me, it was great because I love creeping people out in character, like in game, and like consensually and everything. But Yeah, it was like super fun because the child, because they're made of magic, because they're kind of like weird, they're not like a human child, they would ask for things like a lock of mommy's hair, or they would be like, can I have a pair of scissors before going to
That,
bed?
ooh, yeah, playing
But
on
they would,
the
yeah,
creepy child horror trope is
yeah.
so fun to witness, but I bet so much more
Yeah.
fun to play, right? Yeah.
Yeah, but they like do it in the third person. So instead of being like, I want, a pair of scissors, you would be like, Emily wants a pair of scissors before bedtime or something like that.
Okay, wow. Yeah. Oh man. That's super, like the creativity that comes out of what you and Sadia is I want to say understated on the Kickstarter. I'd love. I'm glad that we're having this talk because I'm already sold on the Kickstarter, but I'm loving this deeper insight. I'm really hoping that people that are watching this can feel that as well. That's so cool. You talk a little bit about the format of suburban consumption. I said earlier that it's an anthology, which means it's not just one long like game or like one story played out um, like a setting rule book. It's a bunch of shorter RPGs,
Right.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and why that format? How did you come to that decision? Yeah.
So I got my start in RPG writing as a LARP designer.
Hmm.
So I started writing LARPs, and they were all short LARPs. And that's like the kind of stuff I like, right? Like I love shorter LARPs versus like longer LARPs with pages and pages of like character development and like character stuff that I'm not going to read or
Hmm.
remember or like act out. Like if I can't retain it, then I'm not going to be able to act it out.
Yeah.
And so I prefer like the short form. And I don't want to speak too much on Sadia's behalf, but I think we sort of have a similar sort of similar like aesthetic in terms of like our LARPs, where things are short. Things are usually like for two or more players. Though this anthology has like solo play as well,
Hmm.
and we usually like shorter experiences. So anywhere between like 2 to 4 hours, or 1 hour to 4 hours, like is probably where we're hitting with these experiences.
I kind of
Um,
like that. I prefer like I don't know. When I think of anthology series, I think of like Black Mirror. You know, I
mhm,
think of
mhm.
two sentence horror stories. Um,
Yeah.
and it just I find it the most interesting because you have to. It's a tighter right.
Mhm.
It's your storytelling needs to be on point. You need to introduce the rules of the world that you are presenting in such a small time frame so that you can get to the story, you
Yeah.
can get to the conflict, you can get to the character introduction, and a lot of those things are blended together. So um, I think, and I haven't written any RPGs just yet, but that's really cool to me.
Thank
Um,
you.
uh,
Yeah.
what do you so with the anthology format of LARPs, are there anything is there anything that is uniquely tied to anthology writing for RPGs that you can think, or yeah.
Yeah, so I would say that the type of LARPs that we have in this anthology specifically are they're called American freeform LARPs. So what the definition is for an American freeform LARP is, I'm sure, debated by academics, LARP academics. They'll talk about like, oh, this is freeform or this isn't freeform or whatever. They're going to debate about it. So we're loosely using the term just because
Hmm.
like,
Yeah.
it can mean anything at this point. But it also encompasses some use of parlor LARP techniques, and it's some of them also use like black box techniques. So we are using like a lot of different techniques that are pulled from like other types of LARP, but in general, we're calling them American freeform. And what that means is in American freeform games, you don't have to use a lot of costuming, right? Like you don't have to dress up unless you really want to. Then you can like, you know, go all out, do whatever you want. You don't have to have a lot of props. They're not like boffer LARPs where you have to have like the foam swords, you have to have like the foam props or whatever. And these games, they, you know, you don't really need to use any of that kind of stuff unless it's specifically noted in the game.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. You're I mean, for this one, it's going to be weird to see someone with a foam axe
right.
in suburbia, right?
Yeah. And these games are also, American freeform games are also, they tend to be shorter. So they're about like, you know, an hour to like 4 hours to play. Usually they hit around like the 2-hour sweet spot. So that's where it usually lands for American freeform games. And they're usually like a smaller group of people. So the groups of people that I've played with in the past, you could play with like, you know, 3 players or 4 players, or like, you know, as big as like 12 players. For this anthology specifically, we're targeting around the solo play to 8-player count. So, you know, if you're in lockdown and you're, you know, you have some friends with you, or you happen to be living with some friends or some people, then these are definitely games that you can play with your roommates.
I think, yeah, I think it lends to the, again, themes of like familial units. Like this could be a family game night, however you want to define family. It also makes it a lot easier to form that group, not having to pull in a dozen or like more than a dozen people, and scheduling that is very difficult. So I think having the smaller format like this is makes it more accessible to a larger amount of people because of that investment.
I would note that the games are definitely not for children,
yes,
because the themes are very mature.
Yes. Yeah. I forgot. Yeah.
But if it's like, you know, maybe like teens, like older teens, then yes, they could, you know, I would say like read through the material first, and then see if it's appropriate before you go into play.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. The Kickstarter has content warnings. This video is going to have content warnings. So just make sure that you read those over and take a really, really to your discretion, decide whether or not, depending on what age range of people you're exposing this to, if they're ready for that. I mean, there you go. That covers that covers our legal obligation.
My suggestion is 18 plus, 18 plus. But I'm sure like these are a little bit more R-rated, or to me, I think they're a little bit more R-rated compared to like my previous work or some of the other work that I've done. So this is a little different. This is sort of like a departure from the other stuff.
Interesting. Yeah. So talking about the different player counts, what is I feel like a lot of the people watching Friends Roll Dice are going to be into the TTRPG scene and less of the LARP scene. So what do you think is so different, the key difference between LARPing a game like this than it is for your traditional tabletop games?
Yeah, I would say these kinds of games don't require a lot of mechanics. They do require that you embody your character. And what that means is that you are going to be playing out your character using your physical body. So that's the major difference, right? The biggest difference is that you are actually acting these things out. They're sort of similar to, I would say, like theater games or acting exercises. But obviously they have like a little bit of a twist, right? So they are played out like a regular game. And there is a story, and you are trying to see what's best for your character, or not what's best for your character. Maybe you're playing to lose. Most of these games are about playing to lose because you are tragic characters, or at least most of these characters are pretty tragic. And so I would say like those are the key differences. Though you are still at a table. So I'm still gonna say these are tabletop games because you're eating at a table. But that's just because of marketing.
It suddenly becomes very meta, right? Like another big thing is that this includes formats for solo play. Now,
Yes.
I've played multiple solo TTRPGs, but a solo LARP, I don't think I don't think I've ever done one of those. Can you talk about what the difference is in playing one and then writing one?
Yeah, absolutely. So this actually has a combination of the two. So you can write if you like to, but you don't have to. So it gives you basically a few prompts of what you're going to do. So for example, a housewife in her 20s, for that, you are going to put on your makeup, you're going to dress up, you are going to make dinner, and then you're going to, receive a phone call from your spouse saying that they can't make it to dinner, and you get really angry. And so it's just like the process of like, what does that look like? And it also has a few bits of media that you can play during the game itself. So you can
Yeah,
play like an audio clip as well, um,
to
just to
help with that
immerse you
creative
into the
process. Yeah,
experience.
the immersion, the creative process.
Right, exactly. I would say that for the other games as well, it's sort of similar where you have this meditative experience, but you're still acting things out, you're still doing things. So there's this other game called It Is Hungry 2, which is also a solo LARP, where basically you are making yourself food, but you are also making another plate of food for a monster in your basement. So the food that the monster in the basement eats is going to be different from what you're going to be eating. So they could be eating, fingernails, like fingernail clippings,
Mhm.
or like bits of hair, or whatever else you find.
Interesting.
So yeah, so it does require a little bit of like that that actual acting out. So you're not just like writing things down; you're also acting it out.
Yeah.
But you're acting for yourself.
Wait,
So
really quick.
yes,
Am I acting out in real life putting fingernail clippings on a plate?
yes.
Oh, oh,
If you want. Of
oh, okay.
course,
If you
like
want, if you
this
want,
is
of
just
course.
like suggested stuff that you might put on this plate for this monster. It could
Oh,
be like anything,
my
really.
my partner's gonna be so weirded out. But I love that. That is, yeah, I love that. And again, that's more of that LARP aspect, right? That live
Yeah.
action role play as opposed to tabletop role play.
Right, yeah. And we have like chapters for each of the player counts. So the first chapter is obviously for solo play, second is for two players, three is for three, four is for four, and then the fifth chapter is for more. So that's player counts anywhere between like 5 to 8. But I think 8 is our max.
Mhm.
And also in the very beginning, we also have a section for calibration tools. So calibration and safety tools.
Yeah.
Obviously, each game is going to be different. So we have all that stuff listed in the beginning, and then for each of the games, we have suggested
Yeah.
calibration tools
I love that that's
for
built
you to
in.
use.
Yeah, that's perfect. I think that's really important. Should be included with a lot of, and if not all, media that involves role play and group activities. Like seriously,
Yeah,
like
these are heavier games, so like they're definitely there for that reason.
yeah, yeah. And okay, so we talked about solo. Now let's talk a little bit more of the bigger player counts.
Mhm.
Say you have a mini get together with your friends from high school or college or something. Is this something that you would recommend for those folks to play and dive into?
I would say it's definitely one of those things where if you have a group of friends who have uh, maybe seen Sleep No More or have been to like an immersive theater type of play before, this is probably something that might be interesting to them. Uh, I would not suggest like just bringing it to like any group of friends and being like, hey,
Yeah,
let's
yeah.
play this really intense game. um, but yeah, I would say like definitely like approach folks who are into that kind of thing. So like immersive theater, if they've done like a like something similar where it's like maybe not an escape room type of thing, but like a larger city type of escape room where they interact with the
Oh,
actors, that
yeah.
kind of thing, which is basically a LARP. It's just that it's a pervasive LARP.
Mhm.
So if they do that kind of stuff, which is generally seen as more approachable, I would think that they would enjoy something like this.
I see. And so working in 8 people, that's a lot of people. How do you balance out the the flow of play to include all those folks?
Yeah, so the games that have larger player counts, they have facilitators. So you have a couple of facilitators or one facilitator for each of these games. But at the same time, all of the players, they have their own wants and needs and things that they have to do
Mhm.
during a social interaction. So for example, in Eve of Y2K, which is about the millennium, basically, where it's like, everyone's at a New Year's Eve party and
I
it's the
remember that. Yeah.
millennium. And yeah, and like you're watching the ball drop. So we have a video in the background that's going to play that's like the ball dropping, right? And so each player has their own sort of baggage card. So they have baggage, they have secrets, they have like all this stuff. And every so often the facilitator will be like, the facilitator who is also the party host will be like, hey, it's time for a toast. Someone, random person, random player, you are going to make a toast. And players are going to have this understanding that they are going to make toasts.
Yeah.
And so one of the players gets called up, they're going to make a toast. And then they also have to grab one of these cards that tells them tells them basically like what is happening to a parallel universe version of them. And so that sort of messes up how their character might perceive what they're going to make or what they're going to say. And so a lot of players, they have like they already have like all this stuff that they're going to read through and try to integrate into their play.
So from what I'm hearing here, a lot of people who have had experience in murder mystery parties would totally understand what's going on.
Oh yeah,
Because
absolutely.
everyone's got different objectives, everyone's got different motives,
Yep.
and there's a it's not necessarily like a murder mystery, but there's that same sort of feel and essence, right?
Yeah.
So okay, cool.
Yeah, it's got a similar. I would say like in terms of like mechanically, it's probably similar, but in terms of how the story runs out, it's a little different. And there's also no real win or lose condition, right? You have goals, you have like motives or motivations behind your character, but at the end of the day, you're more just like acting for the sake of acting just to like tell a story, acting just to like see what happens to your character, versus like acting for to win or to lose.
That for me personally is a little dangerous, not dangerous, but like because then I get stuck in my character and I can't stop doing the voice for a few days.
Well, we have debriefs as well written in.
That is wonderful. Can you talk about that? Because I was gonna bring that up and I didn't put it in the outline, but can we talk about that? Talk about the debriefs. This is what I imagine is one of the calibration and safety tools that you were talking about, right?
Yes. This is also baked into the book itself. So debriefs, they usually look sort of like you would all have, so like regular in regular games, like, or in other tabletop role-playing games, you would just like sit down and you'd sort of like talk out stars and wishes maybe, or like roses and thorns or whatever, if it's like a playtest kind of thing. But for this, you do sort of have stars and wishes, but you also have the segment, which is like a D-roll. So what a D-roll looks like is everyone takes off their name tags if they have any, and they just remove themselves from the character. And so everyone goes around and they would say something like, my character's name was, let me think of a name, like Stan. My character's name was Stan, but my name is Banana, and I am no longer playing Stan. I am a game designer. I am not a fishmonger. I'm just going to pretend that Stan was a fishmonger.
Yeah, Stan the fishmonger, obviously.
Right, exactly. And you would take turns just like doing this process where you're trying to get back into your own shoes. And then you would say like one thing that you really liked about your character and one thing that you would try to leave behind. So for Stan, maybe I would be like, oh, I really liked how Stan was really passionate and really enthusiastic about every single meeting that he had, but I'd like to leave behind his tenacity or his spontaneity.
That's really cool. I think that's really important, to help people decompress, but also separate stuff from from what I understand, a very high, can be at times high tension and challenging levels of play.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm really glad that that's included. And again, we love safety tools here at Friends Who Roll Dice. And having that said explicitly makes it feel just normal, you know, so something that that is just already baked into this wonderful industry, this wonderful hobby that we all participate in.
Yeah, absolutely. And we definitely encourage people to like talk to their friends or like talk to someone, right? After play if they're feeling like a lot of bleed.
Mm-hmm.
And bleed can look like different things, right?
Yeah.
Like it could be like you could be like really happy about the gameplay, or like you're really happy, not as happy. Maybe you're like feeling really sad or depressed or something like that after playing. We still have it written in where it's a good idea for you to talk to someone. um, Maybe it's someone who played the game with you, or maybe you have a therapist or like a counselor that you can talk to, um, or someone that you can trust, so that way you can just like go through these feelings a little bit, with their permission, of course.
Yeah. Yes, of course. That's I I love that the care extends beyond the game, beyond the session, um, and just promotes that sort of sense of community with the people that you choose to play with, if you decide to play this in a multiplayer format.
Oh
um,
yeah.
yeah. So okay, is there anything else that with Suburban Consumption, is there anything else that you want to highlight regarding the game and itself? Because after this, we're going to start talking about you. We're going to start talking about the Kickstarter.
Oh gosh. We have 14 different games. That's a
Mhm.
lot of games.
That's a lot. Yeah.
So yeah, it's a lot of games. Sadia is brilliant. Like their mechanics were just like I loved working with them. Like everything that they did, um, everything they brought to the table, I made a pun there,
Uh,
um, was brilliant. So yeah, I am so happy to be working with them on this project.
that first of all, 14. That is a lot of games to design. Even if they're the shorter format, like that's a lot of games to design. And I'm glad that y'all are having a good time and uh, putting this together and can work together well. Um, Speaking of that, so you talked about this a little bit before, how you and Sadia met, how you two came together. But coming specifically to the theme of this project, can you talk about that? Is that something that you're open to share?
Oh yeah, like how we got into this thing,
Yeah,
basically,
because
or how
because
we.
because horror around the dinner table is not a everyday sentence, right?
So actually, I am very much into the horrors around a dinner table. That specific genre is like my thing. Like I
There we
love
go.
it. So yeah, like in media, I really love like just dinner table horror, like Coherence, The Invitation. Like The Invitation I can watch like over and over
Oh
again.
yeah,
I don't know what's
yes.
up with that. Like I don't know why, but like I
It's
can't watch anything else like over and over again. Like I watch The Invitation. So yeah.
okay. So
Um,
so so you came into this with already kind of enthusiastic about this very, I'm gonna say niche. I mean that with with as much love as possible, very niche and
yeah.
an overlooked corner of all these different intersections.
Yeah. I think so we talked about how I met Sadia.
Hmm.
I think later on I started seeing that they were like into similar things. So they are definitely into this TV series called Channel Zero. I don't know if you've ever seen it.
Oh no, yeah, no, that's something that has passed by my radar, and definitely now I'm going to be looking further into it. But Channel Zero, okay.
Yeah, Channel Zero is gorgeous. So I think because we're both fans of Channel Zero, we were just like, yeah, obviously we're going to make games that are similar to Channel Zero and similar to A24 movies and similar to all these other things that we love. And so, yeah, like if you haven't seen Channel Zero, it's basically an anthology that's an anthology TV series where it's each season is based on a different creepypasta. And so the first one was uh, Candle Cove. I have to be careful because it's not Candle Keep. Candle
Yeah,
Cove.
Candle Cove.
And then I'm trying to remember what the other ones were. Like the second was something else, but all of them were basically like set in suburbia too.
Mm-hmm.
And so there is that sort of like overlap where we're like, oh, this is really interesting. Why are people, so interested in like the suburbs? Why is this TV show just like why is this making such an impact on us? Why are we making this thing? We should make a thing. And so that's basically where how it got started.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, that's I love that being affected in fact affected by in such a way by themes of suburbia, but also having this love of horror gives you this jumping off point to process some of these emotions, these enthusiasms for, again, that most love niche corner.
It is very niche.
And and it's great because you get to share it with a wider audience. You get to like, this is the thing I love. I think a lot of people will love it too. They just need to know about it. I think that's great. And so you two coming together for it, I think is I'm very appreciative of that. And I really hope that the people who back the Kickstarter and are going to back the Kickstarter after watching this will sort of get also feel that as well.
I hope so.
Yeah. So as we know, design and writing is not easy. That's why we pay writers. That's why we pay designers, and not enough, but we should be paying them more. But that's why there's this whole industry of people who put ideas into words. What are some challenges that you didn't anticipate when going into this? Obviously, there's regular design challenges, but specifically to suburban consumption.
I think one of the challenges for us was trying to price stuff out and trying to figure out like what we wanted to have in terms of reward levels, right? So obviously we're both very passionate about this project.
Yeah.
And our publisher is too, Pelgrim Press. They've been great. But then like sort of seeing if other people will be passionate about it as well, because it is a very weird product. Like, first of all, like not a lot of people they know about like American freeform LARPs. Like American freeform is still just like such a weird thing. LARP in general is such a weird thing. People are, intimidated by LARP.
Yeah.
And so it's sort of a challenge trying to convey like what it's like to play some of these games. There is a crowd of LARPers throughout, the US who are excited about this anthology because they've played similar games. They've played like American freeform games in the past. They've done Nordic style LARPing. They've done like, all this kind of stuff. So they know what to expect. They know what this thing is like. But for someone who's never played something like this, they'll be like, I have no idea how to play this. I don't know what this is. So that's sort of like a barrier that we're trying to breach.
Yeah, and it's hard trying to convey value to someone that doesn't understand what the product is, right? Like just how you've built a single person story. How do you price that? How do you convey this is a great product, this is a great story, give us money for it, and how much money for it? Establishing those parameters to a new customer, because obviously you're going to get people who are into roleplay, into LARPing, that have been part of the community and the hobby before, understand. But with crowdsourcing, it's trying to convey those definitions, trying to convey and set those parameters beforehand is a challenge.
Yeah, like I'm imagining people who had never played D&D before in the 80s, like suddenly being like, I don't know what this is, like this makes no sense to me. And then suddenly playing D&D and being like, oh, okay, I understand now. Like I know they're very different. These are very different products, but I imagine that sort of like mindset shift is probably a little similar.
Yeah, and sometimes it can be scary. That's how, I mean, when tabletop like Dungeons and Dragons came out, like that in the middle of Satanic Panic, like people attribute fear to that. So
Mhm.
with LARPing in general, like LARPing has always been sort of on the periphery of my own experiences, but there was always a stigma with it, you know, and unpacking that and trying to introduce it in a manner that says to people it's okay to be um, LARPing, live action role playing, doesn't mean what you think it means, you know.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's still got that stigma of like fireball and like
yeah,
foam swords. I mean, like, not that there's anything wrong with foam swords.
yeah.
You know, there are other LARPs out there and they are different for, you know, everyone's tastes. So,
Absolutely. And I mean, foam swords, as intimidating as they are, not anywhere near as intimidating as a single person story about feeding the monster in the garage. Like when you really think about it, right? Like that.
you should see the My Love of Poison. That one is intimidating because it
Oh,
is so intensely personal. It's like it's a
interesting.
two-player
Okay.
game. This is the Phantom Thread LARP that I was talking about.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
So Sadia designed this, and it's just like you have to be so intimate with the other person. Like you have to
Mm.
like bathe them, you have to feed them, you have to tuck them into bed. It's like I,
Wow.
this is so intimate.
That, yeah, that is very intense. Wow.
Yep.
Yeah. Meanwhile, people are like, "Oh, there's a guy running across the field with a battle axe." That's intimidating. It's not.
Yeah.
This like
Yeah.
that, like, man, that's very interesting. I can't wait to like dive in and see what that's all about and how far it really takes that relationship with that one other person.
Yeah, it is like I feel like these games are more emotionally intense
Mhm.
versus like physically intense, like what most people assume are LARP.
Yeah. Yeah. They're not all like that though.
No, they are not. Some of them are very, I would say like a dark comedy, like the New Year's Eve one. That's definitely a dark comedy. Though at the very end, it does get like a little existential because you actually are watching the ball drop.
Yeah.
So you're watching footage from that time, and so they're interviewing people like Jeff Bezos
Oh,
and
yeah.
like you know bleep me out if you need to, but they're interviewing like Trump as well. And
Mm.
they're just like acting as if they're just like not gonna make it. They're not gonna like, get big and successful and whatever. And then suddenly, like fast forward like till now, we're just like, oh my God, things are messed up. Like
Yeah.
having that meta knowledge of like, oh crap, like
Yeah.
they had no idea. Like they were living in simpler times back then,
Yeah.
like
Oh
assuming
man.
that
Yeah.
things were okay or going to be okay.
Oh, it's like I imagine it's the same thing as like looking into a history book and reading someone's very eerie past. Like, there's no way they could have known what the present would be.
Yeah, it
And
is weird. Like when I play tested it, it just like had this, I don't know, I just felt like existential dread afterwards. It's just like, oh, this is wow. Like we thought that things were great and now things are not great. But yeah, there's that. And also the game at the very end, you decide whether or not the world ends. So there's also
okay.
that bit of that bit of existential dread.
I mean, I'm glad that you can evoke these out of people. Sometimes, honestly, some people are looking to some people are looking to feel something. Just gonna throw that.
Oh yeah.
Some it's a great way to explore sort of people's fears, of the future and the past and all. I don't know. I'm glad that you can bring this to a way to explore those themes very safely.
Thank you. Yeah, I think, I mean, a lot of these games were heavily also inspired by like games that I've played in the past. So I think it does follow a long line of other games like Jason Morningstar's Juggernaut.
Mhm.
So yeah, like there is that sort of things are terrible, everything is tragic, let's play it out kind of mentality.
I mean, yeah, let's give you some a modicum of control over these feelings being,
Exactly.
yeah. Um, so talking about existential dread, what are some things that you that you particularly enjoyed about the process, about this whole project?
Oh gosh,
We
I
talked about
think
challenges, but stuff that came
yeah.
easy, stuff that you want to celebrate.
Um, Writing them was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So writing was a lot of fun. Brainstorming back and forth with Sadia was so much fun. That was really fun. And I would say also playtesting. So playtesting some of these games, it was just like I so I haven't played like a proper game that isn't um by proper, I mean like something that I didn't design for a
Mhm.
while. So like anytime Sadia had designed a thing, I was just like, okay, I'm ready to go. I'll play test this, I'll play this. Like I am ready to play anything that's not my own. And so when I got the chance to like play test their games, it was just like, wow, like these are really fun. These are really intense. And I am having such a great time right now. Like this is like stuff that I hadn't felt in maybe 2 years, like pre-pandemic, right? So it was just exciting for me to get to do that.
And like, as someone that designs games, and experiences, it's such a novel experience being able to enjoy someone else's design, especially at
Mm-hmm.
the playtesting stage.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because like playtesting on live stream, that's totally different. Like
Yes.
that's like, even if you're playing someone else's game, that's still, you have to be on, you have to, act stuff out. You have to make sure that the audience uh,
You have to
enjoys
sell the
it.
product. Like, as
Yeah,
capitalistic as a mindset as it is, you are trying to convey that this is fun and this will capture the hearts of people that want to pay for it.
yeah. But I think this is definitely like a passion project for both Sadia and I. Like this is something that I love dearly. It's very I would say like it is at that same level of love as Jiangshi was for me.
Mm. Oh, I love that. I don't know. I like hearing people talk about their own project always brings me such joy, and like there's a lot of love here, and for this project, it's very very apparent. So we talked about the game itself and the process. Now let's talk about Kickstarter. We have a bunch of stretch goals coming that we've already unlocked. Do you want to talk about those?
Yes. So we have, oh, actually, we have not yet unlocked any stretch goals, but we
But
have
revealed stretch goals. Sorry,
Oh, yes.
that's what I
Yes,
meant.
yes, yes. We have two stretch goals that we have revealed. So the first one is a hardcover book with a vellum dust jacket.
Oh,
I did not know what that meant until Sadia and Kat from Hellgrain Press were like, this is what we mean. And I was like, now I know. This is gorgeous. So it's like an opaque cover.
yeah,
And it's got like Sadia's floating teeth and floating mouths on the cover itself. So it's not it's on like the dust jacket, right?
yeah,
So it's
yeah.
like got all the stuff on it.
You'll
Um
you'll know what we're talking about if you go to the Kickstarter. The link is going to be in the chat and description of this video and whatnot. But you'll see, and that is going to be on like an opaque dust jacket for the hardcover.
yes, it is gorgeous.
It's so cool.
It is
It's
really
gonna look
cool.
really good on any shelf and all that stuff. Yeah, I don't know.
I hope people like it. If all of you want to back it, that'd be cool. And then our second stretch goal that we have out is at the 25,000 pound level for a full color book. So right now everything's in black and white, just because we can afford black and white. But later on down the road, if we do hit that stretch goal, then everything will be in color. So we have a lot of artists. We have some really cool artists that are working with us. So I'm excited for it.
I love that. Yeah. Oh man. Even in black, even in black and white, like some of the imagery and stuff that has been revealed so far, very cool, very eerie. kind of fits the theme, but having that be in color is so cool, so vibrant, so vivid, and evoke just that, take it that step further in immersion and setting the expectation and the scene of each
Yeah,
of these individual games.
absolutely.
And so those are the two that are revealed. We can't talk about anymore until we unlock more. So again, if you're curious and you believe in this and you want to experience suburban horror, please go ahead and back the Kickstarter, which at the time of this recording is at 50% of its goal. If you're watching this at the time of broadcast, you have 2 weeks left to back it. So again, you're in the future right now. It's going to be more than 50%. I'm 100% sure about that. Still throw money at this project. It's so cool. I think being able to explore what we talked about so far, the themes of otherness, the themes of familiarity being turned on its head, and creepy factor, fingernails, food, all that stuff. I think is something worth exploring, and something that we haven't seen very much of in TTRPG space, let alone nerd culture, I guess.
Yeah, I hope people like it. It is, like I said, it is our passion project. Like, this is something that I've wanted to make for a very long time. And, you know, all the stuff that I couldn't do in other games, I get to do here. So that's why I'm so excited for this.
And like, I support that. I love that. Hopefully we'll get this funded and be able to share it with the world. We're looking at a August 2022 release date is what I saw.
Yes, I believe so. So August 22nd, 2022 is when we're hoping, as long as everything settles down with shipping and manufacturing and all of that stuff, we should get that those books out to everyone by then.
Which means on release, you'll have about 2 months before October, the perfect time for spooky, scary. I was gonna say skeletons. Suburbia.
Bring some skeletons with you if you want to.
Yeah. But yeah, so look forward to that. The Kickstarter ends on November. When I don't have it off the top of my head, I didn't put it in my notes.
I think it's November 13th.
November 13th.
But I'm also bad at math, so I.
November. I just remember that it's very specifically 9:14 a.m. on whatever day it. 9:14 a.m. PST. I don't know. That's just getting into details that no one really needs. Just back the stuff now. So yeah. Thank you for being here and talking about suburban consumption of Monstrous. If there's anything you want to plug, now's the place to do it as we sort of close out for this conversation.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on the show. It's always a pleasure chatting with you, and also, like, I love Friends Who Roll Dice, so I love all the stuff that you all do. So yes, I'm very excited to be here. My other Kickstarter that's happening in parallel.
Right, you have to. We didn't talk about that.
This, which is a little weird. Maybe I was a little too ambitious with that. But my other Kickstarter is An Exquisite Crime, which is by Senful Lemon Eye. We are teaming up again to create a weird, surreal drawing TTRPG. So this is more of like a traditional sort of TTRPG, though it is GM-less and it is diceless, and you are just drawing. So you're using prompts to draw exquisite corpses. And basically you're all psychics. So you're psychics trying to figure out, just trying to solve a crime in a surreal world. And as you're doing that, you as players are using prompts from vision cards. Vision cards have artwork on them, and also prompts from the papers that we give you. They're called phantasmographs, where you're going to be drawing like the scene of the crime, the victim, the suspects, and the witnesses. So you're creating the crime as you're solving it.
That's so cool. I love the word phantasmographs.
Thank you. It is a play on auragraphs, which we did a lot of research on as well. We did a lot
Oh,
of research on this game,
I mean, yeah,
surprisingly.
any research is important. I'm glad. Please, if you're watching this, understand that there's so much work that goes into these projects, and Banana, you do a lot of it, and we're glad for it.
Thank you. I
Yeah.
hope someone appreciates it, because most of the stuff no one even sees. It's just like us doing research.
Okay. So yeah, thank you for that plug. Where can people find you, and where can people find Sadia?
Oh, yes. So people can find me on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Banana Chan Games. You can find my company, Game and a Curry, at Game and a Curry on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter. And you can find Sadia. Give me 1 second.
If you want, I got it.
I believe they have Twitter. I don't know if they have Instagram. Do they have Instagram?
I'm not sure, but okay. I got Sadia's Twitter is Sadia Bees, SADIABIES on Twitter. That's it. Oh,
yes, and their itch. Their itch is witchstitches.itch.io. So it's witch like WITCH stitches STITCHES at .itch.io, and I believe they use witch stitches for TikTok as well.
There we go. Those of you watching, please support all of their projects. It's worthwhile and wonderful. We love seeing them. For those of you who are interested in Friends Who Roll Dice content, our Urban Shadows casting call just closed, which means we are looking for players, and then production will start pretty soon. So look forward to that. We also have the Shadows Confidant, a Invisible Sun game run by our very own mayor. So come back to this channel for more of that content. My name is Kappa. I'm usually the pink-haired one at Friends Roll Dice, but my hair is faded out. I really got to redo it. Banana is fielding that for us today.
Cosplaying your hair.
It looks really good. I will have to say.
Oh, thank you. I liked you with your pink hair, so I got jealous, and I was like, I should do my hair.
You know what? It's coming back. I can promise you that.
Yes,
I don't
we'll
know
match.
when. Yeah, we'll match. But yes, thank you for being here. Once again, back these Kickstarters. Links in the description and the chat and whatnot. Thank you. Have a good night. Remember to love each other. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye.